Hello and welcome to India Career Center, the one-stop podcast for students, professionals, parents, and guardians. In every episode, we will try to deal with a current topic that needs expert advice related to career guidance, and career mentoring. Please welcome your host, Dr. S.B. Mishra, to the show. And happy listening.
Hello and welcome to India Career Center. My guest today is an entrepreneur, consultant, coach, and author. He has over 30 years of experience in the construction equipment industry with companies like L&T and CNH. As a coach, he has conducted over 200 training programs for OEMs and dealer sales engineers. He has authored a very interesting book called The 7 Value Drivers for Success in Sales. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. V. Ravichandran to the podcast.
Thank you. While working for an Indian multinational, that is L&T, for over 20 years, and then the Italian multinational CNH for 10 years, there is always a question, what next? And something which will give me freedom to pursue my passion, a work which will help me contribute to the domain and the industry after spending nearly 3 decades. So when I thought about it and introspected, I was convinced that anything related to sales and aftermarket, this competency development in aftermarket and sales and skill development in the capital, earth moving, construction and mining equipment industry was the area which I can contribute and relate to. So over the years, I have not seen professionals of this industry fully dedicated to this cause. We had people from other industries or at times from completely unrelated industries, helping in this cause, and they were without practical experience in the domain, and the necessary impact was not created. So I formed the company called as Sales Enablers in 1st January 2021, and the exact words of our mission, which we drafted, it was something like this: to be recognized as a premium consulting, competence development organization for the construction and agricultural equipment, industrial machinery, and allied products, with an aim to enhance business results and play a leading role in developing key skills in people necessary to deliver value to the customers. So now, we are already a team of like-minded people with a rich domain experience and ready to work towards our mission. But let me tell you, this was not all of a sudden or a knee-jerk reaction for me, and it was a well thought out action. First and foremost, along with my current responsibilities, I designed a sales training program. I delivered about 100 sales training program within the company. It was well received by my colleagues, my dealer friends, and also appreciated by the management. Here I wanted to test the domain knowledge, how I can convert it into the actual practical learning. Then I completed my coaching certification from Ericsson International in the year 2018, and it was a very elaborate certification program spanning eight days, and that gave me tools and methods to implement it in a systematic way. So after this, I started contributing in social media, but particularly LinkedIn. I started writing small posts and contributing in the sales and after sales domain. It was well appreciated, and I was very focused in sharing content which related to sales and aftermarket development. So that was the third thing which got me some good traction and got some good visibility in the industry. And then I wrote a book, 7 Value Drivers for Success in Sales, which is based on my 25 years of sales experience, with the focus on value selling, what the customer requires when they buy an equipment, a premium equipment for B2B business. So this book was, well received by the industry. The industry experts read it, and they really appreciated for its simplicity and the case studies, the very practical guidance for all young professionals who want to take advantage of past experience, so that they don't make simple mistakes which could cause them order, or what they could do better to sell well. And finally, before taking the leap, I made myself financially sound. Entrepreneurship is always uncertainty of the remuneration or work, So I have some very good friends who have already taken this journey. So they told me that Ravi, be financially comfortable and free, and then have some cushion so that you can withstand the uncertainties. So then, with the motivation of friends and family, I took the plunge, and to be exact, on 1st January 2021, I was on my own, and I formed I formed sales enablers. And in these 14 months, as we speak, we have already worked with 5 major construction equipment brands, 10 dealers, and more than 1,000 people have benefited from our sessions, whether it is online or webinars or face-to-face programs. We look forward for more and more brands in the coming year, and with the coming days, and they are having a good feedback from the existing customers who have been associated with us. And I'm very sure sales enablers will add value in the sales training, consulting, coaching space, and the sales and aftermarket domain. And I'm happy that we are going in the right direction. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, in fact, I must compliment you for the wonderful book you've written, The 7 Value Drivers for Success in Sales. The moment I got that book to read, I really was hooked to it and just completed that in just 2 days, because the way it has been written, it's so nice and simple and lucid manner. The book has been written with so many real life stories and anecdotes. So it was a fantastic read. You mentioned about long-term trust and relationship as your first and foremost value driver in this book.
Yeah. Thanks for the compliment, SP. Yes, as I mentioned, the book 7 Value Drivers for Success in Sales is primarily meant for industrial and capital goods space. The book focuses on 7 key values that any customer looks for before they buy a product or a service, an equipment. It could be a service also. It is as relevant as a service offering as a product. And it's a very good question as to why trust and relationship is the first value. It was not a coincidence or arbitrary. It was well thought of. I read an interesting quote which says, "People produce products and people sell products and people buy products and people support products." So, people is a very common element everywhere. Whether it is a very high value product or a service. So, irrespective of the value, it's people plays, and when there is people involved anywhere, there is emotion involved. In a business transaction, there's emotion involved. And one more interesting quote which I have read is, before people decide what they think of your product, they decide what they think of you. So people have a mistake that they feel that the higher the value, people skills or emotions are not important. It is very important, irrespective of the value. And in my 25 years of sales experience, I have seen numerous occasions where trust and relationship has created the difference which was needed to clinch that deal. That particular X factor, which they say, which really helped to clinch that deal. So though it looks simple, but it takes a lot of time and effort to gain that trust and relationship. And it's a journey. It is a process, and at the end, it's rewarding. And many a times, salespeople want quick results, and they don't take the time and effort in investing in trust and relationship, and which does not augur well in the long term. So, having observed this and number of times found out how trust and relationship can do that magic, and based on my personal experience, and also this is endorsed by many of my colleagues who have spent considerable years in this industry, and how trust and relationship has also done wonders for them. Then that is why I thought the foundation is very important for either any building or any relationship or any business. And trust and relationship, believe me, is the right foundation, which for years to come, it can help you with this strong business. And I've also in the book not mentioned the importance of trust and relationship, but I've given them step by step guidelines on how to nurture, strengthen trust and relationship. You know, I have, that is very important. People do understand that trust and relationship is important. But what is important here is, how do you do that? What is the process involved? What is the structure involved? Are you in the right process? How you have patience in, and at times can take a couple of years also to develop a trust and relationship. But in the end, it can be, fruitful for many more years to come. So that is what you will find in my book, is not the importance alone, but the structure to do it, how to do it. If it is a first time customer, how to develop trust and relationship. If it is a repeat customer, how to develop trust and relationship. If it's a corporate, how to do a trust and how to nurture trust and relationship. Because every set of customers or every set of buyer, from the individual to the corporate level to the OEMs to the fleet owners, they have a different element which they're looking for, and it's not a one size that fits all. It's a process, and I tried my best based on my understanding, my colleagues' understanding, to give them the process so that they can just replicate the process and take the benefits of this wonderful value driver, which I call the first value driver. The importance of long term. Here I specify the word long term. It's not a transactional trust and relationship, but it's a long term trust and relationship.
So I completely understand. I think you mentioned about few things which I thought I will try to add in here. You mentioned about long-term trust and relationship, and one has to really work for it. One has to really make efforts to build that trust and relationship. I would like to quote a few personal experience. In my new avatar, as a overseas education consulting, the coach, mentor, podcaster, blogger. So I had to invest time and effort to really build that capability in me. So I had to take a lot of training programs. I had to do new certification programs. I had to invest on a lot of reading. I had to invest on a lot of webinars and things like that to build my brand in this particular new avatar. And somebody, a customer, if somebody wants to take your service, what is important is that they must see you as somebody who they can trust with your knowledge. So as young salespeople, I think one must actually invest time on building that brand for himself.
Absolutely.
And to do that, one must invest on knowledge building, which is to read and go through different types of material which is available. This is one. And the long-term trust, I can now say that in the last 22 years, a lot of my acquaintances, a lot of my associations are now becoming my customers in the new avatar as well. And that is because they have seen me deal with them honestly, truthfully, and professionally. So I did what I did in my previous role. I'm getting those as my customers in my new role. So I think you rightly said that the term which you use, long term, and long-term trust and relationship, I think both are quite relevant for any kind of field. And it is not just for the construction equipment or capital equipment field, but of course, any kind of product or service one needs to sell has to really invest time and effort on this very, very important aspect, which is the long-term trust and relationship. I think the examples given in the book are very good. So one must, as you rightly pointed out, the process given also is very important. So I would really encourage people to go through that book one by one. Now coming to the next value driver which you have mentioned, it is about the total cost of ownership, which is again a very, very important value driver. Would you like to give some real life example of this to our listeners?
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. You said that after trust, the total cost of ownership is very important, and people normally neglect this very important aspect. It is called as TCO. The initial cost is what is always used for the negotiations. In B2B sales, the product is used for a business, and more than the initial cost, the total cost during the entire the life of the product. The life of the product could be 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever. What is the total cost which the customer has to incur to use the product? It could be initial cost plus the other cost, the operating cost. And people can ask, what is operating cost? The operating cost could be fuel, the cost of the operation, the spares, the maintenance cost, the resale value. Because if you want to sell that equipment and get out the salvage value, the resale value, the maintenance cost, the other hidden cost, everything put together is the operating cost. And when you total both the initial cost as well as the operation cost, gives you total cost of ownership, TCO. And many times, I found, people are negotiating based on the initial cost only, and there the right picture is not, being shown to the customer as what they are, what is that is getting. So there's incidents about 10 years back when I was selling, a client and asked for a competitor equipment. He said that it's 15% cheaper, and why should I buy a product, and the all the specifications are the same, and why should I give you so much? And it's very true. Why, what am I getting extra? So that time I had this concept very clear, and because a lot of this MBA books and value selling books, they always emphasize on total cost of ownership. And then I had this calculation ready. I said the books are, this is the total cost, I agree, and but this is the cost of fuel for 5 years. This is the cost of maintenance for 5 years. This is the cost of the spare parts that you consume for 5 years. This is the cost you will get if you want to exit this business for this equipment after 5 years. And this is the competition. And then when we showed him the calculations, after 5 years, even though our equipment was 15% higher initially, the total cost of ownership was lesser for our equipment. And the customers, wow, this is something nice, substantiated by data. So the important thing over here is, are you substantiating it with data rather than off the cuff remarks? Some people just say that no, you buy my product and over the span of 5 years you will make money. No, that don't do any good. You have to substantiate with hard data, clear data, verifiable, agreeable data. With it's okay. This is what we have tested and tried, and this is what authenticated, and this is what will happen. And it could be testimonials from fellow customers. It could be some proven job studies which you can do, show that this is the fuel consumption. This you can compare the prices which are available in the market. And then when you show to the customer with data, the total cost of ownership being lesser, it could be in the form of increased productivity, it could be in the form of ease of resale, it could be in the form of less fuel consumption, it could be in the form of easy maintenance, whatever, everything costs money in the end. So that is the key to approach any in a B2B sales, rather than just haggling, on the initial cost, which most people do. And it's not a commodity, it's not like any vegetable you're buying where the only the initial cost is important. It's an engineering product. And if the salesperson takes the approach of a total cost of ownership approach, he gets more respect from the client also. Client also feels, okay, this guy has done some homework, he has got some data, he has got some study, he is giving some hard facts. So though the customer will try to negotiate on the initial price, but if the salesperson focuses on the total cost of ownership approach, then the chances of they promoting their premium product or their value selling concept gets credibility. And that is why this particular value driver is taken just after trust and relationship. See, once the trust is done, the customer will not pay you just because he trusts you, right? The customer will make you sit and negotiate and allow you to negotiate just because he trusts you, but does not going to place the order. So once he trusts you and says, okay, now let me hear about your product, that time you have to show that your product has a value. That is the total cost of ownership is better than the competition. So yeah, you are very right. So that is why this particular aspect was taken second. And I'm very sure that salespeople, when they use this, they become more confident and more professional in their approach.
Yeah, I think well said. So I guess the underlying value driver is the trust actually, and the trust has to be manifested throughout the journey of this product cycle of the product, I guess, if I can put it that way. And in the process, it actually helps the customer, to have that enhanced driver, which
Actually,
is
yeah,
going to
very right,
continue.
SP. You said it's trust. See, it's like a pearl. If 7 value drivers are some pearls and 6 value drivers are some pearls, then trust is like that string, which keeps them together.
Absolutely.
Just binding them together. You cannot have trust missing at any of the component. So that is why it's number one. It is unsaid. It's trust always should be there. And I also, as I rightly said, I emphasize it's a long-term trust. It is not a short-term trust. So you're right. Actually, I really agree that what you said is trust is the underlying factor. It can be a string connecting all the pearls. The value
Correct.
can be a pearl. Each value is a pearl,
Yeah.
and the string, which is the trust.
Correct, correct. And just to add, my experience, we won a big deal, 50 plus machines from a very, very reputed customer. And the customer was using our, the one of the models. I don't want to name right now, but then they were using one of our machines for many, many years, but they were never used to, buy the other models. But when the requirement came for multiple number of products for different parts of India, they were negotiating very, very hard, and we could actually arrive at the best possible TCO, and that really helped us to clinch the deal. So I completely agree. I think the TCO is a very important value driver. In fact, it could be one of the bedrocks along with the trust, which can really win you good amount of deals in sales. So taking it forward, I think the next one which you again mentioned is about fit for purpose. I think fit for purpose is such an important aspect. There are many, many success stories, and there are many, many damaging stories as well with the wrong sale.
Yeah. Yes.
So, in fact, if you can share a real life story of this from your experience.
Yeah, there are many real life stories, and as I said, a customer looks for 7 values. This is broadly categorized. It could be more values, but basically 7 values. And first, he wants to trust you. Then he wants to see that the product is of value with the total cost of ownership low. But at the same time, the customer also wants that the product or service should be fit for their use. It should be fit for their application. So here it's a very important thing, and salespeople sometimes they miss out on this aspect because they assume, that the particular product might be, and they don't ask relevant questions. So here it's very dangerous. It could be that this particular as application or use could be different than what the salesperson assume, and then the cost of setting it right could be very expensive. The it could again damage the trust, or it could involve a lot of hardships and money. So I think the first thing is, do not assume. First find out if the application which is intended is what the customer intends and what is that you have understood properly. Because for an equipment, there are a lot of variants and a lot of options available for different applications. And one such example which I can relate to is, we used to sell this soil compactor, vibratory soil compactor, which comes under two variants, one with a standard machine, which is standard drive, and another like a four-wheel drive drum drive machine. And for the hilly areas where there's a lot of traction involved, the drum drive was promoted. But 80% or 85% of the application was standard. So this customer, having work all across the country, and this sales guy, my colleague, promoted this equipment, thinking that it could be the 85% use. He promoted the standard machine, and then suddenly, when the machine was en route, he came to know that this machine is going to a site which is a fully hilly terrain. Oh my God! Now what to do? The product he knows very surely that is not going to perform there, and he assumed that it was a standard machine. So he went to the customer. He admitted that it was a mistake, and the customer also appreciated that frank admission. And they changed the order, and we diverted this machine, which is on transit, to the nearest depot. And then the new machine was supplied. And fortunately, the machine didn't reach site, so that there was no confusion. And all these things could have been avoided if the salesperson would have asked the customer about the application, where exactly it is going, and what is the application. So assumption is a very dangerous thing, and here one has to be very clear as to what is the application, what is the variant, which is the right variant. And at times it could happen that the variant which the customer requires for their application may not be available with the company.
Agreed.
The next variant is available, which is either small or either big. And here, this is acid test for the sales guy. Does he, for the sale, short-term benefit, promotes this variant when he knows very well that it's not going to work, or is going to honestly tell the customer, sorry, this variant is not suitable for your application, and let me refrain from selling this or recommend you the next best product. Here most of the salesmen I have seen, they say, okay, let us sell it and let us see, let us handle the challenges later. Who knows, it may work. But I'll tell you, this doesn't work because it can backfire and you can lose again, you can lose a trust which the customer has placed on you in a big way. And you could lose further business. So here you have to, bite the bullet, take that hit, and say, if you don't have that variant, come out of this deal and tell the customer honestly that this doesn't suit you. But most important is first you have to probe and find out, and this is also one of the aspects of professional selling, value selling, is to find out where exactly it is going to be used, who are going to use it, what is the output that you're going to desire from this equipment, and then you come to a conclusion that if the variant that you are promoting is the right variant. So I think this is a very important aspect, and I think, yeah, some of the people are doing this, but most people are assuming, and that could lead them into trouble.
I agree. I think in my personal experience, I have actually seen the machines had to be, returned back and replaced with a new set of machines, or cost of damage repair can be very expensive,
Yes,
and it
yes,
can be so expensive that you might lose the customer forever. So that could be very, very dangerous. So
yes,
absolutely, I think you rightly pointed out that one has to ask the right questions about the
yes,
application, and
yes,
sincerely refrain from the temptation of selling immediately. I think even if you don't have the right product with you right now, it is still better to lose one sale rather than selling something which is not going to help you, not
yes.
going to help the customer, and the process can damage your relationship forever with the customer.
Very true. Very true.
So welcome back after the break, Ravi. We are talking about the next value driver, which is the value of reliability. I think no wonder the capital equipment and construction equipment in the machines are used for productivity. And if any one of these machines are down, then the entire chain of machines and the men associated with that can become idle, and that could be very expensive. So you rightly mentioned about this as one of the important value driver. uh, can you just elaborate a little more about it for our listeners?
Yeah, I think you have again nailed it. SP, that reliability is very important in the among all the values, and it is an equipment which the customer buys for business. It is not for leisure. So every equipment has got a particular utility and particular a job in the entire chain of working. And any equipment which is down for some time is going to impact the profitability or the production or the entire ecosystem. So it is not that it is used in isolation. And customer should be made aware of the consequences of lack of reliability. And otherwise, they just go in for the initial low cost. And my example, again, my experience in life. There's one of the customers. He bought an equipment which is 20% cheaper than us. It is having all the specifications and all the things copied from our brand, but it was cheaper because of whatever reasons. And that time I did not know the value of reliability and how to translate it into economic value. The client said, I can I can maintain any sort of equipment, and I got 100 people to maintain, and this small specification miss will not do any harm to me. So he bought the equipment, and then after 4 months, he called me again. He said that, look, I want to buy your equipment, and he placed the order in next 15 minutes. So I asked him, sir, what happened last time I came to you, and you were very adamant, and now you have bought our equipment at the price which you could have bought last time also. He said, look, I bought this equipment, and it took me half a day to set right a breakdown. And during this time, my hot mix plant was down, and my road work was shut down, and the consequential damage was much higher than the breakdown, and the cost of repairs. So it was very, very stressful for us because that is a very important job. It was time bound. So then I realized that it is not worth to have an equipment which is not reliable, and the consequence is very high. And he also marked a very important comment. He passed a very important comment. He said, Ravi, had you just explained to me very clearly about the cost of this particular breakdown, I could have possibly bought the equipment then. And then he was very forthcoming, and in his he admitted his mistake, and at the same time, he made me aware of my mistake also, that I could have done that. And that was a learning for me for my life, that you have an equipment which is reliable. Why don't you encash it with the proper examples and proper economic advantages? You know, it could be a car also, an automobile. You buying a car, and if once in a year also, if it gets under a breakdown and you're with the family at 10 o'clock in the night in the midst of nowhere, do you want to buy an equipment even if it's at that percent, 99.9% reliable? You don't want that. You want a equipment which is 100% reliable. So whether it is your family or whether it is a customer for business, reliability is a very important aspect. And every professional salesperson should harp on this. What is this cost of this reliability? What is the thing that customer is buying for this reliability? So otherwise, they will just keep on haggling about the initial price, and the reliability aspect will not be encashed. So this is why this is the fourth value. The customer does not look for only the relationship. He does not look only for the low cost or the optimum cost. He does not only look for the fitness as a purpose. He also looks for the reliability of the product. So like I said, I keep on telling that 7 value drivers are all distinct and useful, each useful in their own aspect. You cannot trade one for the other. You cannot say that my TCO is lesser, so my reliability is also lesser. So you have to have a higher TCO, lower TCO, but a higher reliability, a high number of trust, and a very, very fit product for the purpose. So this is also is a very important, aspect in the value drivers or the parameters. So one has to look very, very clearly in this aspect also. And if the customer, if he does not ask about reliability, it's a duty of the salesperson to talk about the reliability and show value.
Agreed. I think a lot of our sales engineers might be thinking, I think reliability is something to do with the product feature, the designers and people in the manufacturing, they have to ensure the reliability, but try to sell the additional warranty packs, for example, along with the machine sales. What you're going to do is you will contribute towards the reliability of your product automatically. Because the moment you sell a warranty product along with your machine, the machine will be managed. The preventive maintenance part is handled proactively, and if that is done, obviously the reliability of the machine improves automatically. So would you agree
Very
on
nice.
that?
Absolutely. Well said. Well said.
Yeah. So going forward, the next value driver which you have described is about aftermarket. And the aftermarket, though it may sound cliched, we all know that the first machine is sold by the sales engineer, but the repeat sales always comes through the product support team or the aftermarket team.
Yeah, I think you are rightly said. It's the second machine is always sold by the aftermarket team, and undoubtedly, aftermarket is a very important consideration for an equipment buyer. The product, however robust and well designed, you know, it is supposed to be supported well also. You cannot say that this is one of the best products, very well designed product, but for support you'll get after a couple of days or one day. No, he wants a support. It could be a small nut, small screw, or some small doubt. You know, the one of the best products, well designed products, functionally beautiful product, reliable. It could be fit for purpose. It could lower TCO cost. But aftermarket support is also very crucial. It could be a natural disaster, it could be an accident, it could be whatever, and you need to, the aftermarket is a thing which gives the assurance to the customer that look, they are there in case of any problem. And research has proven that 75% of the time which the customer interacts with the brand is with the aftermarket team, the service people and the sales people. The service people and the parts people. Once the equipment is sold, and then the part service and parts people have got the most of the interaction. It could be for a routine checkup, it could be for the commissioning, it could be for the routine checkup, it could be for the breakdown services, it could be for any other aspect. So the aftermarket team creates a lot of impact on the buyer in terms of the brand perception, in terms of the assurance which the brand can give to the customer. So aftermarket functions three broad categories. It not only takes care of the equipment, which there is a big mistake which people do. They feel that aftermarket is only to take care of parts and service. No, it's only one pillar out of the three. Aftermarket takes care of the parts and support requirements. It takes care of the customer relationship. How does the customer perceive that brand? How does the customer has confidence in the brand? How does the customer talks about this brand in the market? So it's the brand perception. How does the complaints are resolved? How the customer complaints are addressed? How professionally they are doing their job? Whether it is a service or a product. So the first aspect is supporting, which people stop there. The second is the customer complaint management, the resolution process, the relationship management. And the third aspect of aftermarket is the revenue generation. So aftermarket generates a lot of revenue in terms of parts, service, AMCs, the resale or the repair revenue in terms of equipment, the referral revenue in terms of new equipment sale, either for the existing customer or for a new customer. So aftermarket is a whole game, is a whole gamut of things, and people should not only think that it is just there for supporting if there's any problem. No, it is only one aspect of the issue. The second aspect, as I mentioned, is the customer relationship management, the customer complaint management, which also gives a very, very good feedback about the brand to the customer, which helps in repeat sale. And the third is revenue generation, which has proven time and again that aftermarket can generate substantial revenue and profitability to the company if they're aligned with this objective as well. So all in all, this is the value both for the customer as well as the organization. And the salesperson should understand the strength of the aftermarket. The salesperson should be aligned with the aftermarket so that these values are transferred to the aftermarket also. It is not a silo that many times salespeople think that they are, unto themselves. No, it's a teamwork. So aftermarket is as important part as a salesperson in the selling process. So this is why this particular value is the fifth value. And as I mentioned time and again that though it comes under 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it is not that it is the fifth in the importance. Each and every value is like a pearl. It's like your body part. You cannot say that my hands are more important than my legs. So similarly, each and every part plays its very important role. So for the ease, we have given them the series and number in as 1, 2, 3, or 5. But aftermarket is also a very important aspect, and the salesperson should be very sensitive in how they project their aftermarket capabilities to customers to show value.
I completely agree. I think I echo whatever you said about the aftermarket strength. In fact, just to recall the earlier example I gave about the 50 machine deal. In fact, because of excellent aftermarket support and customer relationship, after 3 years with the same customer, we again cleansed one more order with 50 plus machines. And that would not have been possible without a coordinated efforts from the entire team, both from sales as well as from the aftermarket. The next one, which you mentioned in the book, is about comfort and confidence of user department. And I broadly think there could be two different scenarios. And I think that this particular aspect is more to do with the corporates and big organizations where you have to deal with a number of departments when you're trying to pitch your product. Of course, it will be useful also for single user customers, but it would be more relevant for big organizations where you're trying to pitch your product. The customer could be a first-time buyer for your product, or the customer could be a existing user of your product, and he or she might be looking at repeat of the existing product as well as some allied product which is available in your portfolio. But I think this is an important value driver which you have mentioned, and if you can give some elaboration about it with respect to some examples.
Yeah. So here the user is very important, and many a times, the in capital equipment or any construction equipment or any B2B industrial equipment, even in agricultural equipment, the user and the buyer are normally different. 99% or more, very, very rare cases where the user is himself the buyer. So the user is a different entity, and he has got his own likes, dislikes, and need. Okay. So most of the times what happens is the buyer, since he's sitting in a different geographical location and he negotiates, the salesperson thinks that this is end, this is the end. And they make the full efforts to convince the buyer as to how the equipment is better for them. You know, the buyer wants a low cost, and the buyer wants the reliability. The buyer wants saving in money. That is a hot button for him, the hot button concept. And the hot button for a user is it should be comfortable to use. It should be easy to maintain. So if you don't take the user's aspiration or the user's needs or the user's feedback into consideration, then possibly there could be a negative feedback coming from the user, and possibly it could hamper you in your sale. And as you mentioned, the scenarios could be different. It could be a big corporate or a single machine owner or a medium corporate, but everywhere the users' aspirations are the same. In a big corporate, there may be a number of users, and in a smaller company, there could be less number of users, but the users are there and their aspirations are different. And many times it has costed me sale because I had not taken care of the user. The user could be an operator. The user could be the maintenance in charge, the site in charge. Okay. So an operator requires a ease of operation, whereas a site in charge requires ease of maintenance. Okay, ease of maintenance. So I think that you have to be very clear as to which type of user you are able to influence. And let me tell you one example. I had this experience very early in my career, and it cemented my need for this value. Is that I met one of the buyer. He was an elder brother, and I convinced him for the product with 6 to 7 sittings with lot of testimonials and lot of data. He was convinced, and then one fine day when I was about to get the order, he said that, sorry, I have placed the order of the competition, and then I was shocked. I asked him, I requested him the reason. He said that his brother, who is a user at the site, has categorically demanded a competitor's product. He said that he doesn't want your product, and I cannot go against his wishes because he is a user, and I don't want to antagonize the user because it may create problems for me later. He was very apologetic and he was very ashamed that this has happened, and I was also very sad. The next reaction was I immediately went to the user, and you will be very surprised to know the user's reaction was not that he was willing to listen to me. He said that, look, why are you coming now? When you had spent so much of time with my elder brother and trying to convince him, you have reminded me now, or you have remembered me now when the order is gone. Sorry, I don't want to listen anything from you now, and we will not buy your product because I'm not convinced about the ease of maintaining your product. So this was also an ego. This was also a situation where I learned that I should have also engaged with the user right from the beginning. So in that case, I could have possibly tried to convince him, but now it was too late. I went to him at the last moment. And he was not willing to listen. He has already sold on to the competition machine. So I think every professional salespeople should first try to find out who is the user and what is their perception about your product. Try to work on them simultaneously rather than going in the last minute and trying to control the damage. Uh, the users sometimes are hidden. It is sometimes not very clear as to who is the user. So that is the smartness of the sales guy. He has very powerful questions, finds out the user, and tries to try to influence them very systematically and show value to them, and so that when this deal is in the concluding stage, the user does not create a deterrent, or in fact the user creates a positive situation for the sale. But yes, this is a very important aspect.
Yeah, I agree. I think also just to add, I think the process of connecting with the user, whether it is operator or with the maintenance team on the field, is something which it is a continuous effort. It is not that, okay, tomorrow there is a deal and today you're trying to go and meet the user. That's
Yes.
not going to help. So I
Yes.
think building the trust with the user department is something which is a continuous process. And a good sales engineer should have that as a practice, so that it is a habit which is done. He not only visits his own customers and machines, but also visits the competition sites and meets the users of competition machines as well. So that there are two things. One is to engage and create that relationship with those people on the site. A lot of important information you get from the site, which can be later on used at the time of negotiation. I think that's very nicely explained in your book. I would encourage people to go through that and learn about it. But you're right, this connection with the user department is so important. Uh, Coming to the next one,
Solution centricity is very important value, and because customer is not bothered about your product or service, because there are a number of options that he can choose from, and he's having an option to choose. So while we focus on our need to sell our product, we should always focus on what is the solution which I am bringing for his problem. Okay. So that gives more credibility to the salesperson, and the respect is also generated. Many people try to ignore what is the customer's problem and then try to pitch in their own product or service, but at that particular point of time the customer may have a different problem, different issue, different situation, and if you just take your product away, take your sales pitch away and focus on how you can help him in that particular situation. It could be not related to your product. It could be some operator he wants for a equipment, or he wants some old equipment for a particular, he wants some equipment on hire or whatever it is. He wants to help you choose another equipment. You know, so if you just forget about your equipment and start talking about his need, then he says, okay, this guy is a guy who is solution centric, wants to solve my problem. So then let me also try to help him out. Okay, so one such example which I had in my own experience is, one guy who had a road work and he wanted to buy a compactor, which I was trying to go and sell him a compactor. And then I went to him and I found out that the compactor is not his immediate need at that time. What he needed wants to install a hot mix plant first. Then comes the compactor, because the hot mix plant takes about anywhere between 2 to 4 months to place the order and erect. Well, the compactor can be there in another 4 days. So his bigger issue was, how do I select the right hot mix plant and install it at the lowest possible cost? And he was battling this particular decision. And then I figured out that is his thing which is in his mind. So instead of trying to pitch my compactor, I just did not talk anything about the compactor. I started, okay, you want to buy hot mix plant? Let me suggest some 3 or 4 manufacturers. Let me give them the contact, because he was a guy who has taken this road project for the first time. So he's not well versed with what is happening in the market. He knew 1 or 2 people, but he wanted more options. So I gave him 3 or 4 people using similar hot mix plant, their recommendations and feedback, and 3 or 4 people whom he can check. Because why 3 or 4 people? Because he should not feel that I got vested interest in promoting a particular brand. I gave him 3 or 4 options and 3 or 4 people using this brand. I told him which is better, my own views about that, how you should go about, installing it in the right possible manner, what care that he has to take, and he can also talk to these existing people for their feedback. And he was very appreciative. And in the next 2 meetings, I only talked about his hot mix plant, literally helped him select the right hot mix plant and install it. So during the third visit, my deal got concluded in 15 minutes. He said, okay, what is your product? What is the best price? We haggled for about 10 minutes. He said, okay, let us do this and let us close this. So, you may be surprised as to how you can do the deal in 15 minutes. This because he had this, again, you could call it trust or confidence or the feel good factor, because I was solution centric. Had I just spoken about my compactor in the first 2 visits and disregarded his need for hot mix plant, possibly he would have said, okay, let me talk to you after 2 months when I am ready. And he would not have liked me, because here I was solution centric. There are many such examples, where one can be solution centric. Because of paucity of time, we cannot go on this detail. But let me urge to all the salespeople is to be observant as to what is it that the customer wants that particular time. and then try to address it sincerely without any vested interest. And you believe me, the customer also is observing this. He observes, okay, this guy is a person who believes in my solutions. And then one more example quickly, I could say that one guy wanted a machine, and I could figure out that he does not require to buy the machine for this small work. So I said, sir, why don't you rent it out? He said, oh, is it available? He said, I can help you rent a machine. And one of the customers was renting this, our own customer. I gave him his number, and the customer rented the machine for 2 months. He finished his job. I lost the deal. I could have sold this machine. I lost the deal, but my customer who gave the machine on rent was very happy because he got a business. And this customer was very happy because he found a very low cost alternative. He did not buy equipment for this 2 months of job. So while I lost an immediate deal, what I could gain is two friends, and the customer who gave his machine on rent, a customer who took his machine on rent. And believe me, after 4 or 5 months after monsoon was over, and this customer got a bigger job, there is a no-brainer. Who got this business? I got this business. I got two friends, and I got business from the other guy also. So sometimes, when you're solution centric and when you are very, very unselfish or not looking at the short term, and you give solution without any favor in the short term, customer observes that, and in the long term, you get good business. So that is why this is a very important value driver. As I said many times again, this is not value driver which is the last in its importance. All value drivers are very important in its own way. And that one single common value driver which is there, as you rightly said, is the trust and relationship with a string which ties this pearl of necklace. I also mentioned in my book. And all the examples mentioned in the book are practical examples which I have myself experienced or seen it happening through, with my friends and colleagues, and even competition. And one good thing which people should learn is, please learn from the competition also, because many times they also teach you a lot of life changing lessons. So this is it. Thanks, SP, for your this lovely podcast where I could give a gist of my book, the major gist of my book in less than 45 minutes, and or I think more than an hour, depend upon how you edit this particular this thing. But let me assure you, this particular thing will change the life of any aspiring or any salesperson in the B2B industry who wants to be professional and who wants to take value selling as an approach. So thank you once again for your
Yeah,
very, very pointed questions and very well moderated session.
yeah, Ravi. I think thank you so much for giving your time and taking us through your journey of how you took up entrepreneurship. I'm sure a lot of young listeners who are going to listen to this podcast or see us in the YouTube will take some learning from you as to how you gone about doing it. And also, I encourage all the young sales engineers who are already in the construction equipment or capital equipment field. They can actually buy this book, read it. It's a wonderful book. I have read it myself. It's available on Amazon, and I will share the link on the show note about Ravi and this book also, this wonderful book, and also about sales enablers, what exactly they are doing. I'm sure sales enablers can also give a lot of solutions which are customized for various customers who might need it as a customized product. So I'll share all the detail on the show note. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for investing your time. I hope really you enjoyed this episode, and see you again in the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, SP. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. We sincerely wish you could take something from our conversation today and be able to apply it to your life in a positive way. We value your feedback. This can help us improve our future episodes. So share your thoughts to serve you better. If you want us to focus on a topic which you think is of importance, let us know. We will share our expertise in future episodes. So, see you soon with a new topic and help you in your career journey.